Welcome back to the Strategy for GMAT channel. My name is Manan, and it's been a while since we met on the My Day at series. It took me some time to find out this B school amongst the haze of Delhi NCR. Today I am at the Altera Institute in Gurgaon, and they have quietly made their way from a batch size of 40 to almost 130 students in the last 2-3 years. Decent outcomes, it seems. But again, that's why I'm here, to talk to their faculty, to talk to their founders, and more importantly, the students and how their experience has been so far. What career outcomes they're expecting, what is the vision for the B school, and of course, does it make sense for you to apply to this B school as the next step in your master's journey? So this will be my day at Altera Institute in Gurgaon. Let's see what's in store for us. So I am with a few students here. We will be obviously talking about how their day is like, how are they preparing for placements, are they enjoying the campus or not, and of course the entire pedagogy, etc. So thank you guys for taking out time. I know there is a quiz going on. There is, you just had an exam, and I think there is a class going on, and then there will be career prep sessions later. So I feel privileged that you guys have spent time with me. So what we'll do is, quickly let's introduce each other and where you're from, where did you work before, any other colleges that you applied to, got in, and then chose to be here. So let's start with you.
Alright. So hi, I'm Yashasvi Bhandari. I hail from Rajasthan, but I'm brought up in Visakhapatnam. I did my undergrad from Symbiosis Pune, where I was majoring in marketing and HR. Alongside my course, I was also taking up some leadership roles in the college, a couple of them every year, and I did 8 internships. They were all in marketing. So that is where I developed my interest and passion for marketing. And then I eventually ended up giving CAT the same year. So I'm a fresher. And then I made into a few colleges like IIM Vizag, Kashipur, Amritsar, XIMB, KJ Somaya, Masters Union, and of course Altera. There were a couple of others like IMT Nagpur, Hyderabad as well.
Are you missing anything?
So these are the colleges I eventually made up to, and I chose Altera for the love of marketing and of course the curriculum, the course structure, the mentors, like industry professionals are coming to teach us over here. Okay. So I think for those reasons, and of course it's a 1-year PGP course, so that was another factor that was interesting.
So you left almost half the country to be in Gurgaon, so good. All right, yeah, what about you?
Sure. I'm Arya, and I'm a BBA undergrad, and I have about 2 years of work ex. I worked at Sugar Cosmetics in retention marketing, and then post that I worked as a marketing lead at a social media agency. So marketing, true blue marketing girl I am, and therefore I think the course structure here is just 1 year. Again, Yashasvi's point, that was very attractive, and also the hands-on learning experience. So that's why Altera was my only choice, and I chose to be
awesome.
Here.
Nice, yeah. All right.
So hello sir, I am Pulkit. I am also born and brought up in Delhi. I have a commerce background, did my undergrad in commerce, and after that I have an year of experience working as a marketing executive at a startup, sport tech startup.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Janice. I'm from Bombay. I've done my undergraduation from KG Somaya College of Arts and Commerce, and then graduation from Mulund College of Commerce. Post that, I was placed in Asian Paints as a marketing commercial, wherein I was closely dealing with vendors and I worked with brand managers, which is why I gained interest of marketing, and I wanted to study marketing deeper, considering it was a 1-year program, as all of them just said. I wanted to join this course as soon as possible.
Oh wow! Everybody is looking at ROI already, so yeah.
Okay, hello, I'm Yashina Hata. I'm from Hyderabad. I've completed my undergrad from IBS Hyderabad itself. Post that, I was working as an engagement financial advisor at Deloitte for nearly 2 years. And why Altera was mainly because of the fact that I had a desk job to do, and then I really wanted to move from something very crunching on numbers to something very creativity side and more on the making an impact side, where I can actually change things and see for myself how it's working out. So Altera, because something that really drew me to Altera was the fact that industry experts were teaching here rather than professors coming in here. So somebody who has an experience will be able to tell me much more than, so that is the whole and sole purpose why I chose Altera.
Okay. You wanted to be away from numbers and...
Yes.
sad truth is just marketing is more math than anything else. Yeah. All right, cool. So how is the teaching methodology like? What's your typical day like here?
So, if I had to define my typical day, so there's no end to the day, first
Of
of all.
course.
It always starts from 9:30. Classes start from 9:30. And post that, say, around 6 or 8. We generally have a mix of the normal subjects. Post that we can also have our placement preps going on, do-along sheets that come in for us, and also guest lectures. Like probably in a week, we have 1 or 2 guest lectures scheduled for the week. And yeah, there's no end to the day, like I said. So classes end at 8. Post that we are also again back with our live projects, case competitions, hand-in-hand assignments.
So like our day is, as she mentioned, starts around 9:30, and after that around 6 to 8 our classes end, and then we have our own personal body of work to work on, like our CVs, our live projects, and we have a lot of placement prep lectures, do-alongs, things like that.
2 months. Okay. Yeah.
Here we also get to build our own brand. So we have live projects with companies, and then we have BOIBs where we learn how to build our own brands.
Okay. So, in terms of academics, right? So, how do you guys, what is the course structure typically in the classroom? Who teaches? How does it work in terms of teaching methodology, etc.?
Alright, so when it comes to the classes, all of the professors who come here are not professors, but they're industry mentors and professionals. So, the courses are structured in a manner that we learn things that are ideally going to be applied practically. So, for example, we were having a modern sales lecture today. So, over there, he wasn't teaching us just to give a sales pitch, but he was teaching us to have a sales conversation, giving us a structure as to how would that go about and like what all problems can come up. And he also was sharing a dashboard, CRM tool dashboard, and was teaching us how to apply AI tools into practical business world. So I think this is how things go. Like we integrate AI, we talk about, honestly, Excels have become our best friends now because we just have to work on Excels all day. Like literally, we've submitted total of 140 assignments so far, like across both the terms. I literally was just thinking about it a few minutes back, and yeah, so that is how it is. It's that rigorous.
Also, like this term, we have like 9 subjects, and apart from that, we have our yeah, love the reaction. We have 9 subjects, then we have our do-along sessions going on. We also have business simulations.
What is do along?
So like we are given case studies to like crack simultaneously and like solve it alongside the class. We help each other, so like there's more class interaction. Like the teachers just to moderate the session, but like it's more peer-to-peer learning based. And apart from that, of course, like as she mentioned, modern sales, that's like one of our favorite subjects. Like we actually shoot our own podcasts and even like send the whole like email marketing process. We create the email and like send it real time. So like that's very hands-on.
So let's double click on the teaching methodology, right? It is practicum focused. I've been hearing it already. What exactly happens? Any particular course that you liked, and within that, how did it go about? So anything.
So my favorite subject is brand building. It is taught by Swapnil sir. So his lectures even don't feel like lectures. You feel like you're in a story or a session, a comedy session. He makes everything so fun and interesting. And also brand building is so interesting for me because it deep dives into consumer psychology of what the person thinks in before purchasing a product. Also the JTBDs, how the business grows. All of that is very intriguing.
Okay.
So I think the subjects here, it's really tough to pick one because everything is actually something we're going to be utilizing someday in future or maybe even in practical life. So for example, FPPS, first principle problem solving. We've been applying it already in our lives. Say for example, there's a problem that comes up. How are you going to, make a decision-making framework for it at the moment? And how are you going to break things down in VC format, be it in case competitions or in real life? So I think that is one subject. Another is growth marketing, which is taught by Alex sir. And both of these subjects have just been so hands-on. And so growth marketing, we've been given Excel sheets where we, figured out some dummy data of companies and how we can categorize that in the funnel, the growth funnel we have, and then, the onboarding journey, how activation works on digital platforms. So I think these things are very interesting.
Like our classes here are like a mix of everything. So of course we have your traditional teaching sessions and we have our do-alongs, like we're given Excels and problems to work on. Like they literally tell us that you're a brand manager, you have been given this problem, how will you solve it? And that's also very like peer-to-peer learning based. Like, the teacher will just be the moderator and and we all have to help each other out. And my personal favorite too was first principles. Very challenging. I sucked at it in the beginning, but then slowly, gradually, like to think in structures was like very difficult firstly. But then once you get the hang of it, though, like it's almost like now our we breathe it every day now.
Now you take
It's like that.
decisions, what to buy from grocery also in first principles thinking,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, MEC breakdown
MEC.
hota hai uska. Yeah.
My personal favorite was Sunmeet sir. He is right now taking product management for us. It's just been like 4 to 5 sessions now. But every time that he comes in, he has a new activity with him. That this time, just recently we did A/B. We saw live A/B testing on the Mint app. Like what is happening? एक बार update करने के बाद how many changes are taking place on the app. So yeah, that's my favorite, personal favorite.
Okay. Sanmeet is my favorite also. Right. Okay. So, I understand very rigorous and, practical, etc. But one part of B school life is, life outside of campus. And this, yes, while a new campus, it's still not an institution-like feel, right? Avenues where you can kind of go out, chit-chat and things like that, but while still remain within the ecosystem, right? You go out here, it's cyber city, right? So, do you miss that, given that you've come in from, bigger colleges, bigger institutions? So, how is that off-campus life like?
If I have to speak for myself, I have come from a corporate world already for 2 years now in experience. So that does not really, I don't mind being in a place like this. Like it's a corporate setup. In fact, in a way, the fact that we are right now in the middle of this like DLF cyber hub, that is like a very huge advantage to us. We have that whole setup around us that actually motivates us. Someday I might be here, like in a true sense of corporate setting. So yeah, that, and besides that, in our housing facilities, our accommodations, we do have certain, whenever there's a festival, there's an occasion, we all gather around, probably do some fun activities, bond over food and chit chat.
There's that feeling that like it's chaotic and it's very tough, but at least like we are in this together. So
Okay.
we push each other up.
Okay.
It's like we don't have our families here, but like the people we have made friendship with, it's like become families with them.
You hardly would anyways get time to go out. Given whatever you're saying, it's 30 hours on campus, 5 hours of studying. There's hardly anything left during the day, right? Or do you do anything for fun?
We actually do. We have our clubs here as well. So like I'm also the cultural club head here. So like on Sundays, like 3 weeks back only we wrapped up the section boards. So we have outdoor sports competitions or indoor sports competition, pool, chess, and so like we make sure we also have fun. Like
Okay.
30 hours there's also fun involved.
Nice. Switching to career prep, placements prep. Placements will start soon. So what sort of preparation you guys are started to undergo right now?
Alright, so when we have our lectures scheduled, we have our courses. Apart from that, there are also parallel sprints and career tracks going. So in the sprints, there are different headers like do-alongs that you already mentioned. There are separate reading hours where we are given cases to just read, interpret and discuss within the class and with our mentors. That is one thing. Apart from that, we also have specific remedial sessions for the ones who are, probably feeling they're weak in certain topics or they're identified as they need more practice to it. So we have REMs for Excel, for communication, in business, for maths, and things like that. So yeah, we've been trained for that. Apart from that, even before we joined the college, we were given a pre-PGP course. So in that, we had like around 80 to 100 hours of work to do, which also covered Excel, PowerPoint, and introduction to all the courses that we have here. They were live sessions that were taken by our mentors only.
Okay.
So yeah, we had things of this sort.
That's pretty interesting. And specifically job prep, resume building, interview, etc. Have that started?
Yeah, that started. Like we've already had our, master CVs made that are being reviewed by our mentors. After that, we've also started with our one-pagers.
Okay, interesting. And in terms of, again, continuing with the career prep play, right? Any particular sectors, etc., do you think, are more focused on here, or if you are looking at a particular sector in that sense, what's the focus?
Like we were told at like the beginning of the course that there's supposed to be like career tracks soon, like they'll be introduced, and like in that we'll be prepared for specific fields. So like if someone is interested in growth, they'll be trained for that. If someone is interested in category management, they'll be trained in that. And I think like that's the next thing that we'll be doing.
Okay, all right, interesting. Given that there is hardly any alumni network, the practitioners who are coming in, they are teaching for a bit and going on, right? So where do you see that mentoring happening? Like, is it still in patches, or is there something ongoing that is there today? If you feel you need help, who do you go to?
we go to our mentors only. So our mentors are very approachable, very friendly, and considering they are the leaders in the industry, they're always available. And sometimes they might be not there for this lecture, but for some other lecture, for some other division, then they're there, and then we take all their time and utilize it.
We also have like a Altera after hours program. Like we can just reach out to the PGP office and they'll set up a meeting with someone who can help us clear our doubts. Like
Okay. You were saying something?
So we have certain times, so like even after the sessions for like say half an hour, they're definitely there for us. Ki how many people ever they can actually like solve your doubts or whatever concerns you have regarding the subject, they're available for us at that point of time. But besides that as well, so right now like we said that we are doing our BYOBs, we are building our own brands one-on-one. So we have got allotted mentors for that also, and on our live projects also that we are doing for certain companies, that post classes they're available for us to help us on those as well.
All right. So everything can't be going right? There has to be something which is amiss, which is going bad, which should be improved. What is that?
Like for me, firstly, like the rigor, the number of hours that, as you said, like our classes end at 8 officially. That's it.
Officially.
On paper. That's it. But it's just the start for us. So I feel like initially that was like a hit because we're not used to it. Like, undergrad, maybe, and even like my corporate experience, okay, 7 p.m., 8 p.m, the work does end. It does end somewhere. But here the closure does not happen. So like, that it does get tough a lot of times. Like, we reach a burnout stage. But then obviously, like, what helps here is that we have a lot of our assignments are group assignments. So like, okay, if you're having a bad day, like your peer will be there to back you up. So like the load gets divided that way.
So I think majority of it is already covered by her, but frankly the rigor was really tough to cope with initially, but we were kind of mentally prepared for it because everyone was talking about that only. But something totally new to me was the lack of sleep. I personally used to sleep for like 8 to 9 hours every day, and after coming here, as Pulkit discussed earlier, we just sleeping for like 3 to 4 hours, and yeah, honestly, even 6 hours of sleep on a Sunday feels like such a luxury. So I think that's the first thing we do when we get a break.
Your generation will not feel that luxury. You'll feel FOMO. Okay, what did I miss if I slept for 2 more hours?
Yeah, that's actually what's happening on the weekdays. So that's why we utilize that time on case competitions. We're just working all the time.
Okay, so what's not going well apart from the rigor?
So apart from the rigor, I feel like we spend most of our times here. So there are sleeping pods being built, but there is not much canteen food. But they are working on it. Like we eat Maggie most of the time, so that's something. Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, so we've almost come to the end of this. And any final message to future candidates who are, will be becoming your juniors and all of that going forward?
Some of the people are quite intimidated by marketing. So marketing is not just advertising or, just the communications aspect of it. There's a lot more. So I think people should be open to it. Like, for example, marketing starts even before the product is developed and it ends after the customer, the post-sale service is done. So I think it's a journey and you can be interested in it. You can try to explore it. And yeah, based on that, make a decision, I would say. And also that it's a very digital first college. So everything we do here is very digital. So Excels पे हमने ज़्यादा काम किया है rather than on paper. So even the exams are conducted online. So I think that is another thing. So yeah, you will be exploring the corporate world even before you enter it. So that was the case with me. So as a fresher, so this was the best option and I'm proud that I took this.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, guys. I'll let you go back to your hustle and rigor. Thank you for taking out time. This definitely will help future applicants get a sense of what the life is like at Altera and what they can expect. All the best for your journey, and it was great speaking with you guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. So now I am with Alek, who's the co-founder and also a very, very active mentor at Altera. We will talk about the vision, why they essentially started it, what are the challenges they are facing, and of course, what is it for you as a future student to join this institute. Thank you, Alek, for taking out time.
Thank you, Manan. It's great to be speaking with you and your audience.
Great. So, you guys were running very, very effective MDB, programs. There are a lot of B schools around, new age B schools, etc. So, why did you start?
So actually, a lot of people don't know that about Altera, which is we started as a management development program institute or an MDP institute, as they call it. And we had remarkable success there. We worked with companies like Unilever, Amazon, ITC, Nestle to upskill their employees. So because we built out such a sharp curriculum that the industry needed, that's where it started from. So essentially what was happening was these companies are hiring people from other B schools because that's the talent pool in the country. But then they find that there is a skill gap, particularly on digital commerce, even core marketing, etc. They would ask us to upskill those employees. And that obviously as an employee, you would be able to get maybe 6 weeks with those students. You can't get more, right? Because their time becomes more valuable. And it was during this phase that we sort of realized that we are trying to pack so much in these 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 days of boot camp, etc., whatever the MDP duration is, which is stuff that ideally people should have learned in their B school 1 year or 2 year, depending on the B school that they went. It is because that B school did not cover a lot of this that we were now having to do a crash course of sorts. That's where the idea started, which is that what if we could take this curriculum and break it down? What if we had 1 year with these bright minds? What could we do then? That was a core idea. And the second was more purpose driven because we want to create employment. When you do MDPs, it's great, it's very valuable, but it doesn't help people switch jobs as such necessarily. As a personal purpose between Karan and me, we want to make sure that we help hundreds and thousands of students land great careers, because careers shift lives, especially in a country like India. My education, my first job and career has transformed my lifestyle. And we want to enable that for hundreds and thousands of students, which couldn't be done in the MDP construct.
So what makes Altera different then? A lot of new age B schools, mostly the spiel is around, we are making you job ready, we are helping you place because other institutions are slow, etc., etc. So what is your pitch? What is your spiel here?
Honestly, education is a simple business, so to speak, if done right. And we want to focus on the basics. What are the basics of education? The basics of education are what you teach, how you teach, and who teaches. If you have these three things in place, you don't need some jazzy fourth thing, right? We focused on these basics. I'd love to talk about these. Starting from the what. In terms of the what, of course, we know that there is a UGC, AICTE prescribed curriculum for the MBA or the PGDM. And we know that it has gaps. How do we know that? Is because employment is a challenge. The industry is not ready to absorb people from these B schools outside the top 10. So we know that that's a challenge, which is why we started with the focusing on the what. And this is where the MDPs that we spoke about came in. Because we are rooted in the industry, because A, we are still active industry professionals, B, because we work with these companies, so they sort of tell us almost in terms of what are their biggest problems. The secret sauce of Altera Institute is reverse engineering that need of the industry into a curriculum for the student. So our curriculum, I can very confidently say, is the most cutting edge when it comes to sales and marketing careers. Whether it's traditional, whether it's digital. For digital first businesses, so there is nobody even close. But even for traditional businesses, the kind of curriculum that we have, because we've designed it industry backward. That's the first thing. The second thing is the how we teach. I've always maintained that education is one of the fields where there's been very little innovation if you zoom out a little. The first university started in the 17th century. If I'm not wrong, it was Oxford. And the way of instruction was there would be an individual would speak to a class of people. Cut 400 years almost, and it's still the same. Now we might have a screen, we might be using a smart TV instead of a whiteboard or a blackboard or anything. But the core idea or the core product has remained the same, which is I know something, I'm going to tell it to you. Our pedagogy is different. Our pedagogy follows, of course, that's where it starts, but it gets the students to do a lot more. So you learn something, but then the students spend almost 30 to 40% of their time applying it on simulations that we have designed, on games, on real world sort of immersions. And then they get feedback on that. Obviously, they will not get it first time right. If they were going to get it first time right, then we are not required. So they do it, but then they are mentored through it to help them realize their mistakes, etc. So that when they graduate from here and do it in the real world, they have a higher ground. So that's the how of it. And the third is the who teaches. We don't have a panel of academicians who teach at Altera Institute. We believe that business is best learned from practitioners, from people who have been there and done that, right? It's the Harsha Bhogle versus Rahul Dravid analogy, which is who would you want to learn batting from? Harsha Bhogle is a master of cricket knowledge. He probably knows more than most individuals alive. But if you want to learn how to grip the bat, if you want to master or perfect your defense, you're going to go to Rahul Dravid and not Harsha Bhogle. That's the philosophy because of which we have in 100% of Altera Institute's education is done by industry experts, who are people who have been there, done that themselves, who are still doing it. And this I'm not saying for guest lectures only, because a lot of these schools claim that there are industry professionals, etc. But I'll repeat 100% of the education, which means the quizzes are designed by the industry experts, the exams are corrected by the industry experts, the 20-session courses are done by industry experts, and we have a system that works.
Two models exist right now, right? There are institutions with academicians. They are now slowly getting practitioners in their curriculum as well. And then, of course, the new age B schools are solely focused on practitioners doing it, right? You obviously form a part of the latter. And also, a lot of times marketing these institutions, they are bashing up the legacy ones.
Sure.
Right. So what are they doing right in terms of legacy institutions that you have incorporated in your curriculum? So is there a best of both the worlds, or it's like a hard left on
the latter? A lot. Look, and within legacy, I went to IIM Ahmedabad. It is an institute that I hold in extreme high regard. So there is absolutely no bashing. I stand by it. It's changed my life. It's changed the life of my batchmates, and it should exist. An institution of excellence like that is needed in the country. I'll tell you the fundamental difference as I see it from my perspective is academicians are needed. Academicians are very good at teaching. They're very good at teaching or passing on knowledge that is a bit more static. What do I mean by that? Things that don't change over time. Laplace transform does not change over time. How to solve a differential equation does not change over time. The mechanics or strength of materials, I'm a mechanical engineer, does not change over time. The principles of microeconomics do not change over time. What changes is the way that it's applied onto business. So it's a very clear divide, which is academicians are far better than any industry practitioner in teaching what does not change. But that's not the requirement of today, because things around us are changing so rapidly. Today, you might think, a sales manager, that job is still the same. No, it is not. A sales manager today is expected to be hands-on on CRM tools, is expected to use data to derive insights on how to pitch the product. Then there are a whole host of new roles, growth marketing, product marketing, etc., which did not exist. And the same fundamentals that have not changed cannot directly be applied to these roles. There is a need for both in the ecosystem. For anybody looking to make a career that is more future-proof, that is more ready for digital-first businesses, that's where we come in. That does not mean that we've not imbibed anything. I think the biggest thing that we've imbibed from the traditional legacy institutes, and I'll limit it to the top ones, is the rigor. You would find that a lot of the new age B schools are a bit lax on rigor. Because it's easier. The students are happier if it's slightly easier. It's easier to manage because you can give them a bit of breathing room, etc. But we don't do that. So our students have classes from 9 to 7 on most days at the minimum. After that is when the mentorship for case comps, their live project work, their remedials for whatever, and the placement preparation, all of that happens outside of class. We do not substitute core education with even if they have to do a field visit, most of that happens on Sundays and half of Saturdays, right? So I think the biggest thing that we've imbibed from these institutes is the rigor, which a lot of the other institutes have failed to do because it's difficult to do and it's unpleasant. I think the first term at Altera, even honestly the other terms, the students are sort of exhausted, they're underslept, but they're thriving, they're enjoying themselves. It takes a bit of a journey for somebody to come in and start enjoying that. But I can tell you that all of the alumni, once you've gone through the cycle, they really appreciate the rigor. The number of times that people have come and told me that our job is chiller than what our program was. For most people, the job becomes more intense. And that's why they're doing well, because they've been trained in an environment where they are pushed to their limits, intellectual limits. And then they go and apply it in a slightly less demanding space. Yeah.
Right. So from a candidate or a student standpoint, they look at B schools as consideration sets. Say, I'll look at X, Y, Z and Altera as a part of it, or not part of it. So from a school standpoint, who do you consider as competition?
Where does this competition ka funda comes from? Anybody who's learnt a bit of microeconomics understands supply demand. Ki demand is limited and then there is supply, and the larger supply is fighting for the same demand. High quality education in India is one of those sectors where it's actually supply constrained. There is, how many people write CAT every year? I think 3 lakh, give or take. Another 2 lakh aspirants write the other exams and not write the CAT. So broadly, 5 lakh people want to start their B school journey every year. Now, no matter what competition, what criteria you define for what a good B school seat is, you would struggle to get beyond 20,000. If you use CTC as a criteria, if you use quality of teachers as a criteria, you use institute curriculum as a criteria, whatever you want to use, you will struggle to get beyond 20,000 seats as being defined as quality or good seats, right? I don't want to say that only CTC, but if you use CTC as a benchmark, the number of colleges that have median CTC above 15 lakh per annum is about 18,000 seats. 20,000 supply, 5 lakh demand, all of these people. This warps what competition even is, because then suddenly it's not as important. Of course, we're fighting for the same set of students who we want to improve our intake pool. All of that is true, but it's not what keeps us up at night. It's not the single most important thing for us, because there is so much demand that we are not selling shampoo, for example, where the market is constrained. Everybody will wash their hair only twice or thrice a week, and there are only so many people who can afford shampoo. So then you have demand constraint, and then you're fighting for that same pool. We are not that business. That said, from a consideration set perspective, I think that's a very valid question, which is who should consider us, or who does consider us among the student pool. So I think anybody who is ambitious, who wants to make a conscious choice on their career. So there are a set of people that, of course, just go with the flow, saying that we're doing MBA because everybody is doing MBA, and we want some career outcome out of this because I have no idea what I want to do. And it's okay if it's not very high growth. Matlab, I just want to get started. That's probably not the person who considers us, because our program is intense. Our program is for the deliberate, for the people who want to deliberately shape their career in a direction which is more future proof. Now, that does not come easy, right? For example, it's the same difference between a corporate job and a PSU job, right? A PSU job is safe, comfortable, but its growth is limited. And a lot of people from B schools therefore don't want to go to PSU jobs also, right? We are the corporate in that comparison, right? So it is you need to work harder, you need to shape your future more deliberately, but as a reward for that effort, your career growth trajectory changes. So the person who is considering us is definitely considering other B schools, but the person or the students that really fit at Altera from both sides, that we want them and they want to get admission here, are the people who are really ambitious and want to make a difference in their careers, and who are seeing the businesses evolve around them, that businesses are becoming digital first, and they want to be a part of that growth trajectory. They see Eternal, they see Blinkit, they see Mamaearth, they see all of these success stories, even the likes of Unilever, ITC, hopping onto the digital commerce ecosystem. They want to be a part of that success story. For those students, honestly, we are the best option out there.
And you also teach?
Both Karan and I are teacher founders. I take a course, I take multiple courses. One of them is growth marketing, which is sort of my core area of expertise. But more importantly, all of the curriculum that we have is 100% our IP or intellectual property. So even if an external industry mentor is coming in teaching, say, B2B sales or the science of selling. That curriculum is designed in partnership with us, where we design the learning objectives as the institute. We co-create the session plan. We co-create, more importantly than the session plan, the set of activities that the students will do. Right till the evaluation criteria, everything is run sort of centrally from the program side. And then, of course, we tap into the expertise of a lot of different industry professionals. But the engine of the curriculum is run by me and my team.
Okay, that's interesting, because a lot of new places are, you practitioner brings their own content, they teach from their own experience and all of that, but it's a hybrid model.
It's a hybrid model. I want to tap into that, but not in an unstructured manner. This is not a set of YouTube podcasts. One person is coming saying something and going, another person coming saying something and going. How does it all tie together, right? That's where my role is, which is to make sure that there is less repetition, that there is more complementarity, and that it's at a sufficient level where the students are able to absorb. Because an industry professional who's coming does not know what the students did last week. Does not know what their current level of data understanding is. That's my role, which is to make sure that it's suited to the students' needs.
And the jobs or professional landscape is continuously changing. Where do you see a B school being relevant, regardless of legacy or not, a master's education or a postgraduate education, relevant in this day and age? Like you said, podcasts are there, courses are there, practicums are there. It's all connected and hands-on, right? So is there a future for B schools now?
Look, for B schools, and I'll comment for India specifically, but B schools in India are a gateway to careers, to high growth careers that otherwise individuals do not have access to. This mostly people will agree and acknowledge. I think the nuance that gets missed is that gateway is golden in color only for 10, 15 B schools. For the others, it's an iron arch, right? Which is not a very inviting gateway. So there is a role that the top B schools have in the country, which is filtering the best students, putting them through very, very good set of behavioral practices. You work really, really hard. You build integrity as a core value. And that's why these individuals go out and do well. You also build network and all of that. Now come back to your question, which is, are B schools relevant today? The top 10 will always remain relevant as the golden gateway, regardless of how dated the curriculum might get. Outside of that, I think the curriculum really needs an upliftment to remain relevant, which is where sort of our idea also comes in, which is how can we take what the industry needs today and design backwards from there. Because let's be honest, most students are joining a B school to start their career or to give a launch pad to their career. I think institutions cannot take a high ground saying that we are teaching stuff that is true and it's always been relevant and there are Oxford papers on this or Harvard papers on this. So now careers will be an outcome. No, unfortunately, that's not the stance that institutes should take. And to be able to do that, they really need to be industry backward. I think, honestly, most B schools lack the ability, the team, and the incentive to do it. We have everybody, all of those three. We have a killer team that we've been fortunate to get. We have our own ability to do that because of our industry background. And of course, we have the motivation and drive to do it as well.
Final thoughts, final message for the future applicants.
Be very mindful of your choice of B school, whether it's us or not. When I see student forums or when I interact with students outside the institute, I realize that there's a lot of confusion on what parameter to choose. And it's one of the things that we teach in structured thinking, which is before making any decision, you have to align on the criteria on which the decision is being made. And those criteria you can't lift and shift from somebody else. Those criteria can be very different from you. Versus your friend or even your sibling, honestly. So make a very sharp list of criteria of what you want from your B school and then design backward from the career that you want. This is a pathway. This is an important 1 or 2 years of your life. Make that decision wisely and consciously. This is one of those things where you don't make a decision just because others
Are doing
are doing it.
FOMO needs to be avoided.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. This was really good. All the best for the journey ahead. A lot of exciting things I have witnessed today. So again, all my good wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I am with a faculty, Hari. He is a practitioner in the industry and he's coming in teaching a bunch of courses here. We will be obviously talking about first why he chose to teach here, what prompted him, the kind of courses he teaches, and of course we'll try and pick his brain on advertising as well as the way marketing is changing right now. So thank you, Hari, for being here.
My pleasure.
First question, given your industry experience and everything, why Altera?
I really loved the idea of Altera. When it was explained to me that this is going to be a PGP, which is crunched into a 12-month period, and it kind of readies you for industry. I felt that was a very interesting and a very promising proposition, because there is clearly a need today for any B school that is operating below a certain league to do things which are very real and which the industry needs.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them are stuck in their older thinking. And Altera is someone who came across to me as absolutely, they're very updated in terms of their approach. So if you look at the entire content to commerce funnel, they have it all. And that's what really appealed to me. Plus the spirit with which both the founders spoke with me about how they are building this place and the quality of students. So once I came in for a few sessions, I really could feel it and understand it. And I think the whole aspect of bringing in that vibe and that seriousness about a business district, and which institute would you find in the most central business district of one of the largest financial capitals of the country. That itself is like a statement of saying that they are serious about creating a new breed of business graduates. All these factors, of course, created an impression of Altera in my mind, and that's why I chose to associate myself with them.
Nice. And what do you teach here? What is the course?
So it is called AdCom, but of course it encompasses a lot more. It gets into right down to how do you create brand dimensions, through consumer behavior, through the psychology of marketing, and right up to how do you create storytelling for brands, and that seen through the funnel of a content to commerce approach. So what we've done is we've customized a course that looks at elements of marketing and advertising that are timeless, that don't change.
Yeah.
And then the delivery systems and the manifestations of that, which has now hugely changed in the new era. So I would say that the course that I've kind of created here along with the faculty and what we teach here is basically a content to commerce focusing on communications, brand content and communications.
Let's double click on that a bit in terms of you're teaching at a few legacy schools also. So how is the curriculum, the way or the course here different from there, and what exactly are you doing in terms of, let's say, a lesson plan or the kind of assignments that the students would go through?
Very interesting, because look, marketing studies isn't what it used to be earlier. Kids now have exposure to a lot of marketing principles. Social media has done it. A lot of kids who come here have already managed social media pages for either their own businesses or some friends or whatever. So there's a lot here which is not rocket science. And the real inspiration was, I read a quote somewhere which says that B schools should stop teaching marketing from the last decade. And that was the starting point of saying, what is real time? What is happening in marketing and advertising right now? Are we obsessing too much with this whole aspect of making TVCs? Why are all the inputs that go into a brand communication resulting in an output which is very unidimensional? Brands do communicate with and brands have several thousand touch points with their consumers where a story can be told or an impression can be created. Why aren't we looking at all of that? And that was really the guiding light. That thought was the guiding light behind what we created here in the AdCom course. And what we've done is we've started with the fundamentals of how the funnel really works. And that itself took a lot of time because we have so many case studies. As a practitioner, I bring my own experience of about over 3 decades into explaining cases to them and across various big brands. And therefore, also tell them that it's not that a brand only solves problems through one unit, of say a TV film or an ad film. There are various initiatives that the brand does. There are various decodings that happen between a consumer and a brand. The relationship is maintained, and how that happens through multiple initiatives. So it could be influencer marketing, it could be gaming, it could be a movie placement. So or it could be in a mini series, and nowadays there is this whole trend of micro dramas which is coming up. So the idea is that whatever culture defines and wherever consumers are engaging with entertainment or any other cultural marker, how can brands play a meaningful part in that and not intrude upon people's viewing? I think one of the biggest things I also felt is that this cohort that we are teaching here are themselves audiences for various brands. So when you go and tell them about how a brand should interact, and if you teach them something very archaic, they're the first ones to call that out, to saying, listen, I bought that brand, but I never saw a television commercial of that brand. So it's very important to understand where they are also coming from. And we have very consciously and mindfully created that and curated several thousand examples of how how brand storytelling is done, not just through a unidimensional piece, but through multiple initiatives wherever the consumer has an opportunity to kind of listen to a story from the brand.
And how do you look at the batch and the quality of the batch in terms of their inquisitiveness, skill level, and all those things?
So, like I said, our classrooms, almost 40% is dedicated to interactions. And we keep the sessions pretty crisp, and we make sure that we distribute them in very meaningful groups. What we do in quizzes are we have very objective type answers, and which kind of broadly tell you that everyone's got the concept. And even in our initial midterms, we keep it largely multiple MCQ types, so that people don't people still have the opportunity to kind of read through 3 or 4 options and then answer. And then what happens is that in gradual scheme of things, we try to create a bell curve of the performance of students. And that really tells us who are the better among the lot. So there is a section which tells us, has everyone got it? Has everyone got the conceptual understanding? Which I'm pretty satisfied with actually so far. And then of course we try to differentiate the best from the good. And that's what so far we've been. And the faculty here and even the support staff, the program staff that I have access to here are very conscious of these things. Because see, I'm a practitioner, so many a times my time here is limited. So whatever I start off, they follow through very, very well. And they are very sharp in picking out, the points that may have been missed. Or if they are watching a certain trend, within groups, if they feel that there are there are people who are not doing stuff, and there are some people are over indexing on the effort, all of that is brought to me, and then I kind of rework on the courses and then bring it back again. So we have a really robust back-end support system that ensures that learning is kind of done wholesomely.
Right. And how do you rate the quality of the students, based on your interactions?
Look, I must say that, and I'm not saying that because this interview is an Altera interview, but they have some very stringent methods of choosing the students. I think year 2 onwards, it's been a CAT. They've chosen people through CAT.
GMAT and
and of course the people who've come here through work experience, they take another test.
Yeah.
So there is a very, very strong filtering system. I think the founders are very clear that the quality that gets out of this institute has to be the best. And of course, the institute will add to a lot to that. But the starting foundation, competency, capability, talent has to be there.
Yeah.
And they have figured that out. And I have had pretty much a very good experience. I think I go to many other institutes where I know that there is only say 25 to 30% who's really the top quadrant.
Yeah.
But here I can safely tell you that if you look at across the spectrum, and so far we've also had the advantage of having very small classes. Class of 25 was just about 40 people, I guess. This year will be our real test because it will represent a much larger number of people.
Yeah.
But so far what I've been seeing is that pretty much everyone's making the cut. There's very, very minimal number of percentage of people who really who we feel have not made the cut.
Okay. Putting on your CEO's hat, would you hire from here?
I will 100% hire from here. In fact, I even marked out some people, but there are a lot of other factors. I work in the ad industry, so we have very different realities in terms of starting salaries, etc. So we'll have to see that. But yeah, of course, why not? Because there are people here who, if they weren't here, they should be actually creating campaigns with me. And then that's what we do. And when I do that, I am very delighted. Back in my office, those kids ask me if they can come here and join those classes because my relationship there is very different. Here it's very different. But yeah, to answer your question, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I'll be at a loss for choosing because there will just be too many to choose from.
All right, this was lovely. Thank you so much for your time, and of course, I hope you have a blast continuing to teach these people, and of course, hire from here.
Yes, of course. My pleasure, and I'm enjoying it. Thank you, Manav.
Thank you. So now let's talk money, let's talk numbers, let's talk placements, let's talk outcomes. I am with Karan, who's also a co-founder here and a mentor. We will talk all of that, and of course, the ethos behind placement prep and how they are getting students ready for their dream careers. So Karan, thank you so much for taking out time.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Okay, great. So let's get to it, right? So what kind of recruiters, are showing interest in Altera, given it's a new B school among a lot of B schools in the market, right?
Sure.
So what kind of recruiters are you targeting? What's the approach?
So Manan, you're right. We are a 3-year-old B school. Set up with the aim of re-establishing the gold standard for MBA and management education in this digital and AI first world. Important to understand why we exist in the first place. And I'm sure somebody would have spoken to you about it, that consumers are now spending all their time online. Because they're spending all their time online, the way businesses need to be built has changed. You wouldn't have a Zomato, Swiggy, Blinkit 10 years back. They were there, but they weren't as common and in every household as they are now, right? Which fundamentally means that white-collar careers have changed. The skills needed to succeed have changed. But what has not changed is that the MBA has not changed. So what has happened is, on one hand, you have business schools struggling to place kids. And on the other hand, you have companies struggling to find talent for, all of these new age digital first roles like e-com, growth, perf, founder's office, so on and so forth. That is the reason why we exist. Now, why did we have this insight is before starting this place, I was with HUL for 14 years. In my last job, I used to run e-commerce as the general manager for the business. Before that, I used to run the brand Surf Excel as the marketing director for the country. But the common problem that we had across those 5-6 years that I was running these businesses was the fact that we would struggle to find this digital first talent. And you would know, HUL is a very aspirational recruiter across all top B schools. So we would have access to kids from ABC, FMS, Excel, ISB, SP Jain. But even then, amongst thousands of applicants, we would struggle to find that 1 or 2 kids, because when we double clicked, we realized that education had not evolved to, kind of meet the skills needed by us. That was a big challenge. And we got enough conviction that it was a large enough problem, and we set up the institute. Now, I gave you all of this backstory to tell you that while we are just 3 odd years old, the problem that we are solving for is very large. So we've been very lucky that a lot of recruiters had the same problem, and they've come back and they've been recruiting from our business school. Now, what needs to essentially happen over the next decade is that the skills ecosystem has changed, but the instructional design, curriculum, the pedagogy at MBA has not changed. That shift needs to happen. In fact, one of the early signals that we got for the shift was that when we started the institute, you would know about MDPs, right? Where companies go to upskill their employees. Where do they go if they want to kind of upskill their employees? So we've had an outstanding response from there. So today, 40 plus companies use us to upskill their employees. We are talking about the likes of HUL, ITC, Amazon, Honasa, Britannia, Godrej, like lots of these, right? And if companies trust us to educate their employees, they of course trust us to hire students also from us, right? So that is what's been happening. So that's been the thing that's been powering our flywheel. And in our second year, which is the batch that we graduated, we've had recruiters like Amazon, Flipkart, Blinkit, Godrej, Jubilant, and many more, which is rare for an institute which is so young in its life cycle. Yeah.
So there is a DigiAxle legacy that continues because of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that curriculum, that instructional design, that MDP base is a large reason for our reputation with enterprises, and that translates to great recruiter relationships for Altera as well. Yeah.
Right. And broadly in terms of sectors that you guys are looking at or specialize in, for a lack of a better term, mostly FMCG or e-commerce, etc. for now, or there is a startup MNC split. So can you just talk a bit more about that?
Okay, let me answer this in two parts. I'll talk about the startup MNC split, but I'll first talk about the industries and the roles, right? So if you look at last year, I don't think we have that specific sectors, but bulk of our hiring is in consumer and consumer tech. So almost 90% of our students landed jobs in either digital first jobs or in digital first companies, right? So that's about 9 out of 10 kids, that's where they went, right? So we are talking about roles like, and I'll give you a breakdown, 40% of our students landed jobs in e-commerce, be it on the retailer side or on the brand side of things. 20% of them landed in growth or perf roles. Another 20% of them landed in EIR, strategy or founder's office roles. And then 10% between product and brand management. So that's the 100. That's the split of the 100, between roles. In terms of sectors, I mentioned digital first as the ones. We've spoken about the recruiters. Within MNCs and startups, look, we have a bit of a philosophy here. And the philosophy is that for the first few years in their careers, I think students need to learn, right? They need to learn new skills. They need to learn the right behaviors, and they need to learn how to kind of give a consistently high quality output and build trust as a white collar professional, right? And I think that is what should take the forefront rather than them worrying if they are going to be out in the job market because their early stage startup where they got placed did not raise their last round, which is what's happening today.
Yeah.
You have a lot of these kids in the market and they are struggling to get their next job because they got placed in a small company which struggled to raise their next round. So that's not the camp that we are on. We believe that a company needs to have hit a certain baseline for it to be stable enough so that it provides that learning platform for our kids. And that is the place where we go. So bulk of our kids would, kind of land jobs in listed companies. They may or may not be MNCs, but, large size, mid to large size companies, most of which are listed companies. That's the split. Very few you will find in very early stage, say Series A or below kind of startups would be very rounding off error kind of recruiters. In our base, and that's a conscious decision because of the philosophy that I mentioned.
Right.
I myself had the benefit of a lot of mentorship and learning at HUL, which has the management trainee program, which is considered the best in class amongst learning programs and management trainee programs. And I believe students need to learn in the first few years of them getting into the workforce.
And what about sectors like finance, consulting? Sure. Usually B school favorites, right?
You're right. Finance and consulting. Okay, I just want to kind of highlight a nuance here, right? If you look at the top 5-6 B schools in the country, that is where consulting roles are concentrated. So you look at a A, B, C, maybe I. ABC, you have 30 to 40% consulting. You go to ISB, there's probably 20-25. My numbers could be wrong. You would know those better, but I could be off by 5-10% here or there. But the minute you start going even below that, right, which is you would even go to a FMS, Excel, SP, that number starts becoming small. Again, if you look at finance roles, especially investment banking and quality finance roles, very, very concentrated at the top, top 5 B schools. And then niche is all ITES, BFSI, where you are essentially doing a lot of sales jobs and not core finance jobs for the large part, right? So I just want to bring out that nuance. I don't think we will be a finance favorite for some time to come. Our focus very clearly is in marketing and general management for digital first industries and companies, or digital first teams in large companies. So, for example, a GCPL will have a digital first team. Even a consulting firm like Bain, McKinsey, they've all got these digital arms, which they're trying to build out. That is going to be our sector of focus. Now, so far, we've not had, the top consultants, within our recruiter list. But I think it's fair to say that that's going to change soon.
So let's talk numbers now. Placement wise, how has the last batch fared? And more importantly, the current batch and maybe the next batch, are you targeting any numbers? Any sense of targets that you can, kind of give people?
Let me talk about the batch that has gone. And I'll just maybe mention 2 or 3 salient points and also, again, an overarching philosophy about them. So if you look at our last batch, the batch that graduated, the cohort of 2025, so we had a 100% placement rate, amongst opted-in students, a median salary of 18.1, mid 80% number of, I think, 17.1, something in that range. And our average is also in that 16.8, 16.9 range, something there. I think the top 50% kids are above 20, and the highest is 26.x, right? So these are broadly the numbers, that we have. But I think what is very important to see is the quality of jobs. I think one of the things that, I kind of wanted to talk about was to say that, hey, look, there are 2 very clearly industries are being split apart, between traditional and future facing or digital and AI first. One is a sunset sector, one is a sunrise sector. Bulk of our jobs are here. Now, this is the place where demand for talent is much, much greater than supply. I mentioned to you that companies are struggling to find that talent, that skill. So students here, even after they join the workforce, see a much, much faster career growth. We've had a student of ours from our first cohort. Remember, we are a 1-year business school, right? So she switched jobs after first year. So essentially, she is where, say, a 2-year MBA student would be, because they would have 1 more year of education. Today, she's getting paid more than the students from the top 6 plus FMS, etc. in an e-commerce firm. Why? Because what she learned and what she demonstrated in the first 1.5 year of her job is far more valuable to that company than a graduating student, even from, top 5 B school today, right? So the point I'm trying to make is that future career growth is much faster and jobs are in the sunrise sectors and not in the sunset ones. So numbers are what they are. If you just standalone look at the numbers, it would put us somewhere in the top 25, top 30 B schools in the country. But I think for us, what is more important is the second part that I mentioned to you, which is the quality of jobs, the ceiling of those jobs, and the runway that students have to grow within those careers. Yeah.
So I read the placement report yesterday. Of course, all these numbers were there. One thing that struck me was oversharing information and oversharing data, right? Audits and whatnot. It felt, there is too much information, right?
Yeah.
So is that conscious? Is that the way you want to go about it? What is it?
Of course, it's a conscious decision. Like we made the choice to be very transparent, very honest, and very authentic, and that is the way we want to operate. And I just want to give you our perspective as an institute about it, right? I came from a middle-class family. The job that I got after my MBA was the foundation for, whatever I have today in life. But the truth is that for that single most important decision that a student makes in their academic life, they are reliant on placement reports that are quite opaque, non-transparent, right? And let's break this down. Let's look at data around this, right? There are about 5,000 business schools in this country. Less than 2% of them audit their reports. So essentially, the placement committees in the student-run placement bodies and the faculty here kind of decide what they want to put out. Of course, I'm not saying that they don't have governance mechanisms. They would have all the governance mechanisms, but it is not looked at by an external party. Right? So essentially, there is lots of things that you can do. Do you report offers or do you report accepted offers? Or do you bundle international and domestic together? Do you apply a PPP factor on your international offers? Okay, do you even include all students in your placement report or not? Many institutes would publish it when 80% students are placed and never kind of go and update that report because there are no mandatory disclosures that you have to do, right? Which is why there is always this conversation of saying ki alumni are saying ki itna nahi tha, but report says itna, right? And there is a dissonance and lack of trust in the student community. In fact, the college that you went to and the one that I went to, both don't audit their reports, right? And they're doing fairly well. They are amongst the top 5-6 business schools in this country today. So students essentially are comparing apples to oranges, which is why IPRS was set up a few years back by IIM Ahmedabad, which absolutely specifies what needs to be accounted where. That the absolute number of students needs to be put out, salaries need to be split a particular way, how fixed variable needs to be put out, how do ESOPs need to be accounted. All of that is set up and it is the most stringent accounting standard there is. As per my knowledge, we are amongst the only 5 institutes in this country that followed IPRS this year, right? Less than 5. I'm might be more, but that's not updated on the IPRS website and not, with the auditors that we know. And why did we take this stance? Philosophically, we took this stance because, look, sure, we are founder mentors, here at the institute, but we were students first. When I went to FMS or when Alec went to, IIM Ahmedabad, both of us were in a similar situation. We'd written the CAT. Back in the day, FMS used to be a separate paper, that. Yeah. And we were wondering, how do you make this decision? And we were the ones who were comparing these apples to oranges and trying to figure out, because both of us had options, okay, of where to join and figuring out, where do you join, right? So we said, look, this has to change. I did my MBA, I think 2008, about, 18 odd years back, right? It still run the same way. So this has to change. So we said, we will set the benchmark for transparency, honesty, and accuracy. There is what you are referring to as oversharing, we refer to as authenticity and honesty, and a very student backward view to it. So we met almost 1,000 students and figured out what questions are there at the top of their mind. And we structured the report in a way to answer those questions. I'm hoping we are the first, but we won't be the last. And the rest of the industry will follow, and students will be able to make better decisions around their careers because, B schools and MBA colleges will voluntarily disclose far more information and far more transparently than what they do today. Yeah. So that's the reason, and we'll continue to stay this way.
Great. So let's talk about how these numbers came about. In the sense, what is the preparation mechanism that you have for these students?
Sure. As a 1-year program, you don't have an internship. That tends to be a bit of a challenge when it comes from a CV standpoint. Because what does a business school do? It gives you access to skills, and it gives you access to great companies, because great companies trust the business school to be upskilling students to their requirements, right? That's the construct. So you upskill students, and then of course you bring access to great companies through the placement process. Now let's talk about the first part. There are 3 things here that we do very differently. So all of our curriculum is 100% industry design. We are 100% industry mentor taught business institute. And we follow a learning by doing or application first pedagogy. In fact, it's in our name, right? So students get to apply what they do every single day at the institute, right? Now, while they might be building the skills, but how do you give them a platform to showcase those skills, right? So we've built these various mechanisms within the B school, right? So for example, live projects is a very, very important mechanism. By working with companies within their first 6 months, of being here. So they work with CXOs and leaders on real life problems, right? This year, people did a project. Two different teams did projects. 4 different teams did projects with HUL. Last year, somebody helped Pilgrim make their go-to-market strategy for salons. Somebody is helping a pharma company plan their, consumer business strategy. So, really heavy-hitting, important projects they are working with CXOs. And that, of course, gives them visibility, but also, gives them something that they've demonstrated as an output by using their skills to put on their CV, because you have to first clear that filter for the companies. Then through the application first pedagogy that I mentioned, every term students are building something out on their own. So you build out your own brand in term 1, you build out a product MVP in term 2, there is of course the live project, and then of course you do some sort of a research in term 4, and you publish a new to world thing, which is your unique thinking, right? So that also is a platform in which students are able to put more stuff out there from their standpoint, right? So this is about, building and showing proof of work. So skills, proof of work. The third is, how do you polish and how are you able to put out what you know in the best way possible for the recruiters? Because eventually you have to clear that interview or whatever filters, multiple rounds of interviews that recruiters have, right? For which every single student gets assigned to an industry mentor, an external mentor and an internal industry mentor. We have a lot of industry mentors who work with us directly. And of course, we have an external panel of industry mentors. And these mentors are able to help them through their journey, right? Right from, figuring out what are the relevant part of their work ex, right? How can they think clearly and articulate more clearly? What are the frameworks that get asked most often in such conversations? Just like you have case prep for consulting companies. What are these frameworks, and how can students become much better and better every single day at demonstrating them? So all of these are certain prep and mocks that are done internally. We also have an external panel, and students can choose who they want to do a mock interview with at any point in time, unlimited number, right? So we've built out this ecosystem around students and given them this access to a larger pool of industry mentors to go and practice their skills. And of course, what we teach them, the way we teach them, is the starting point for those skills. And then, of course, the other part is about putting them out on paper and then demonstrating it in conversations that you have with companies. Yeah, so that's the structure essentially.
So let's talk about the future. Two parts. One, are you looking at accreditation from an FT standpoint or otherwise? And second part is, where do you see Altera 5 years from now?
I must admit, I'm not a very big believer of rankings. I believe the best validation that we can get is for the student community to trust our education, and for the corporate or the enterprises to trust our education again, so that they come to hire, because eventually that's the outcome that students in India are looking for, and not just the degree and certificates to hang on their walls, right? So I think that is a metric we hold far more closer than rankings or accreditations at this stage. Of course, we have plans for accreditations that I'm going to talk to you about, right? But before we do that, I think it's important to just do a 101 of accreditations. Of course, there are domestic ones and then there are global accreditations. Domestically, if you do an MBA, you have to be accredited by UGC. You have to be a university essentially. If you do a PGDM, which is a diploma, you have to be accredited by AICT, right? Yeah. Both of these are 2-year programs. Now, Altera Institute is a 15-month program, which is 100% industry taught and runs a fully in-house built 100% industry backward curriculum. Now, none of these three fall under the current guidelines of AICT, but these are the things that make us who we are. So we've chosen to be autonomous and standalone. You've seen the infra. The infra is far more than what is needed by AICT or any one of the accrediting bodies in the country to operate a PGDM. But we've chosen to kind of stay independent, and so that we can run this new breed of education, that we are running. Now, in the global accreditation scheme of things, there are 3 large ones. There's AASCB, there's AMBA, and there's EQUIS, the Holy Trinity, right? The best practices for these are, you should have graduated at least 3 batches, then you apply for some of these accreditations. It takes anywhere between 2 to 7 years for you to get them. And then, of course, we are going to be doing this. We will be following this best practice. And, once we graduate 3-4 batches, we are going to be applying for them, and then it'll take its own time. By the way, ISB, from an India standpoint, is not accredited to UGC or AICT because it is also a 1-year PGP program, right? So very similar construct. And ISB got their first global accreditation almost 11-12 years after they came about. Our goal, of course, is to get it faster, right? So essentially, for us, the model that we want to replicate is ISB because, they've chosen to stay autonomous, standalone, and then kind of apply to these global accreditations, which we also intend to over a period of time. I hope I was able to answer your question on that.
And FT.
And FT. So FT is a ranking which looks at many parameters. I don't know when we'll get to it, but I think once we have some of these accreditations in place, then we'll start applying for those rankings as well. But I would say it's a few years before we start featuring on them. As I mentioned, for us, the metric that we hold very dearly is the outcomes that our students get, the trust that we have with the student community, which will reflect in the quality of students that we are able to attract, and the recruiter pool that we are going to be able to build, which is a function of how much do corporates, enterprises, and companies trust our education. Those are the 3-4 things that are more important to us than some of the ratings. Of course, we'll get to it over a period of time as well.
Right. And what do the next 5 years look like?
Sure. Currently, the way I think about things is that while our placement statistics we spoke about, but what the placement statistics don't cover is the reputation that we are managing to build. And I'll give you an early indicator for that, right? if you look at MDPs, which is where companies educate their employees. Look, companies are very discerning about quality of education, about what is the most innovative curriculum, what is the most future-facing curriculum, right? They're very discerning on, and they make these decisions based on all of this. You'll be surprised to know that in our field, in our third year of existence, we do more MDP revenue and students than the current leader in this space, right? So it's fair to say that de facto, in the eyes of the enterprise and companies, they believe that the curriculum that we have, etc., is more suited for today's time, which is why, in our third year of existence, we are doing far more revenue, far more students than the current leader, in this space. And we believe that in a couple of years, our reputation and our placement outcomes will also catch up to that. So we believe that in about 4 to 5 years, we will be the number one player or the number one business school when it comes to marketing, management education for the digital and AI first world. So in this field, that is our goal, to be the number one in the short term, which is the next 3 to 5 years. I think in the medium term, the conversation that we want to also have is how can we build systems. I think that books of the future will be very different from what they look today. I've kept harping about the curriculum and how it's very good. But, we wouldn't want that to be restricted only to students of Altera. We are trying to build systems where even other business schools can take this curriculum and, almost teach it within that. Because, hey, look, great education should not be gated. Almost like how Harvard thinks about cases, and, you can buy those cases very cheap. And, there's a TTT, which, instructors and mentors can take, and they can then go out and teach within their own business school. So that's what we want to do with our curriculum also in the medium term. And then I think in a slightly more longer horizon, we want to see what the management university of the future, could look like. We see all of these IIMs getting into UG education. We know UG education is broken. If you look at any statistic, there are statistics going around that half of India's graduates are unemployable. So there clearly is a very large skills gap at a UG state as well, and which is, by the way, why they come to do MBA, because MBA has become this gateway to jobs, right? So at the right time, we would also want to kind of spin off into UG education in some format. I think that's still some time out. So I've not just given you a 3 to 5 year, but a slightly longer view as well. So that's about us, where we are at.
No, that's great. I think good vision, head and heart in the right place, authenticity and whatnot. I think pretty impressed. So all the best to you and the entire team for what you're building. I'm sure, it'll be great. Godspeed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us on the channel. Thank you.
So now I'm sitting with Harsh, who heads admissions and marketing here at Altera. We will talk about the admissions criteria, the kind of students they're looking at, and of course, what is the process, how tough is the process, and what is the entire application outcome that you can expect out of the entire process. Thank you, Harsh, for taking out time.
No, absolutely. It's a pleasure, sir. And, great to have you on campus, in fact.
So we've interacted a lot offline as part of your, B school journey also and all of that. So let's first talk about what exactly is the process like. Sure. You can quickly do a walkthrough.
Sure, absolutely. Look, our process, is a twofold one. And, I'll explain both the admission process as well as the interview process, because there is equal weightage that we give before we roll out an offer to any candidate who kind of applies. The application, has 4 sections, let's say, right? Because and of course, overall we follow a profile-based shortlisting process. So it's not how it is done, let's say, in conventionally, in like any of the legacy B schools, that it will be that you have a cutoff per se, or just on the basis of your CAT score, some interview calls are given out. We do want to, understand at least 3 to 4, different parameters of your profile, if not more. It starts from, of course, the education background. Then work experience for us is a very crucial section because, overall, I just like to use the word, the language that we speak perhaps is something that at times people who have a slightly higher awareness level, right? And of course, WorkX people, they do have that. So that is there. Then the third, it's not a highly important one, but for us it is a crucial one, which is the test scores. We are fairly liberal over there. We like to take any of the 4 test scores, which are the CAT, XAT, NMAT and the GMAT, right? So because for us that's an indicator. right? Because we are not from that school of thought that, hey, these exams are boring or these exams are very linear and all, which to a certain extent, right? Let me not go in extremes and say ki aisa hai ya aisa nahi hai. But at the same time, they are an indicator of some raw analytical skills, let's say, right? Or critical thinking skills. So it's an input for us. It's an important input for us, right? And then comes a very important section, which is the SOPs, right? So we have 2 essay-based questions which are there in the app form, which are very important for us to understand. Right, because that is a signal for us that how much clarity of thought do you have about your future, and how do you see your B school journey kind of fitting into that, right? Because we don't want this to be a very mercenary sort of some sort of a trade that I come to a B school, I go out with a job, right? Like essentially, how is that plugging into your journey is something that we want to understand. And then it's the interview process, which has 3 rounds. It starts with the case round, then a personal interview round, and then every candidate that we think that is someone who we may like to offer also gets a chance to meet our directors in the director round, which is the last one.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just a slightly longer summary of the whole process.
Sure. So given this profile, interview process, the scores that you look at, can you just talk about 2-3 student personas that are there, so that the audience can kind of gauge and of course relate to as well?
Sure. Okay, even before I answer that question, let me just give you an idea about what our current batch profile kind of looks like. 2/3 of the batch comes with experience of having worked in the industry. Average work ex would be around, let's say, 23, 24 odd months. Rest are freshers.
Okay.
Right. Now, if amongst them also, so of course freshers become one persona, and I'll cover them, which is the third persona, let's say. Now within WorkX, there are 2 types of people who kind of come to us. One are early on in their careers, who kind of figure out that, hey, the kind of jobs that we are doing right now, we want an acceleration in our career, which is the standard, use case that people have when they figure out that ab B school jana hai, right? That we have to go to a B school, perhaps to get that, that disproportionate jump in the career in the shortest time possible. The second are the ones whose proportion is increasing for us drastically, right? And these are people who come in with a very specific use case that, hey, I'm in analytics, I want to get into product, right? I'm doing this, let's say, marketing executive role, let's say, I want to get into growth marketing per se, right? So these are people who are looking for a very, very, very specific pivot, right? Even if not directly, but at least a roadmap to that, right? That even if I don't get a product role, let's say, right after a B school, am I able to get roles which can help me pivot, later on, right? So that is one, persona that is, like even in our short journey of 3 years, has increased drastically year on year. And then third, as much as we want more WorkX folks to apply, we are also not very averse to freshers, because with freshers we have a very high bar on intake, even more so, like I would say, as compared to what we have for WorkX folks, because you can't just take, any person who has no experience of an internship or has very little experience, let me not say no experience, or has very little experience of understanding how work gets done, to also be able to absorb the rigor of our program. Right? So that is where we do look at your internships and all also, and anything that you have done, right? So it is just one spike where you have kind of, at least one spike, right? Where you have kind of outshine, right? So that is something that we do want to understand in a fresher's profile, and that kind of sums up, I think, the 3 personas.
Right, nice. And what about given it's a new B school, you scaled from 40 odd students to 130. Is there any shift in terms of the mix, persona, maybe quality of students also?
Yeah, look, I'll tell you, the first couple of batches, internally we call those students as purists, right? Because imagine the first batch. Right, because those were the people who actually took the leap of faith, right? Now, hardly would you find people who would want to go to a B school which has no outcomes to show for, right? Because it's like a chicken and egg problem, right? People only go to B schools for outcomes, but you can only generate outcomes if you have students, right? So that is where I think the first couple of batches, of course, were students, who were looking for something very specific, who saw our value proposition on its own, right? Let me only talk of the first batch, because the second one still had some anchors on the outcomes of the first one. The first batch, folks, it was just anchoring the trust on who was teaching, right? And then I mean, we have started off with the B school, only in the last few years, but our reputation in the industry kind of, precedes that, right? So with everything that we do on our MDPs, when we closed our, 24-25 FI, right now, up till that time, we work with now 43, 44 odd companies on upskilling their employees on very, very, very specialist, skill sets, right? So that is something that kind of, helped even give that confidence that, hey, perhaps there is a space for us in the kind of skills that we are able to produce, right? So that is something on which we kind of started off with the B school. And the first batch of purists, let's say, right, those people saw that as something that was able to solve any particular use case for them, right? Okay. Now coming to the third batch, because this is where the main increase has happened, let's say, right, which is almost 3x, right? Yeah. In fact, more than 3x, 3.5x almost. The quality has improved massively, I can tell you, because it's just that that everyone kind of wants to understand what outcomes you are producing, and on that basis, kind of your intake quality, or at least the overall consideration set in which students are looking at you, it gets decided, right? Yeah. In fact, I was just with some alumni, last week only, and I was telling them that, hey, if you applied in the next batch, I don't think half of you would make it. Of course, I was joking with them, but it is one thing, right? Even on our median percentiles, on even if that is an indicator, let's say, because profile test score is of course internal to us, but even on median test scores and all, we have seen at least a 10-15 percentile improvement over our first batch, let's say, right, on medians also. Okay. Right, so yeah, so it is increasing, in fact, right? So as we have hit scale, we are also getting some really good interest from very good students now. So that's a positive sign for us. Okay. Yeah.
Talking about fees, scholarships, is there a criteria? How many do you usually roll out?
Yeah, so scholarships for us now is something that we consider automatically for students, but the slots are limited, right? So it's not that anyone has to apply separately for that, right? So because look, for us, it is about how do we make this the most frictionless journey for all deserving students, right? And of course, financial aid, and for sure financial aid solves for that. But at the same time, it won't be that, say, 60% admission or tuition fee rolled off and all of that, because it can't be a discount per se, right? Yeah. It has to be some sort of a scholarship, but it has to be earned, right? So for us, it's like in the coming batch, if we talk about, there are very few slots that are there, and that we kind of, almost take it, case by case basis. So if we think that the person deserves it, we offer it upfront only, right? Okay. It's not something that students have to apply or ask for per se. And specific slots would be, say, around 10% of the batch. Okay. Would be a rough estimate that I can give you. Yeah.
So let's talk about the application process again. What sort of challenges do students generally face, and something that we can preempt?
Yeah, look, I'll divide that in two parts per se. One is just from the application form perspective, and then from the interview rounds perspective, right? Because over there also there is a bit of nuance to understand. From applications, I think the first three sections are fairly standard on our application also. The fourth one is something that I've seen even some great students struggle with, right? Because SOPs is not something that everyone kind of is writing right from class 12, right? Other than the people who take SATs and all. And even in undergrad, right? I don't know that if still undergrad, undergrad institutes still ask for that. But postgrad, I've seen that a fair bit of them have started asking. But still, you would not find that in, I think, more than 5% of institutes, right? So people are not ingrained to understand that how to draft a good response to your essay-based questions and all. So that is something that I've seen even people with great raw intellect also struggling, right? Some basic things like that. What does the next 5 year, that overall, that what do the next 5 years for you look like? Because it's the first time you have to introspect, right? It's the first time you have to, you actually have to word out everything. Yeah. So that is something that people do struggle with. So that is where I think, and for that reason, our app form also takes some time, right? It's not a form that you can fill in 2 hours, let's say, right? It takes iterations, right? At least the ones that we do shortlist. Overall, we can see that, this essay response has come out after multiple iterations, because that is where you'll be able to communicate what you want. And then if you're not able to do that with LLMs now, fair play to them. Everyone kind of goes on with the safest option, but students have to understand that it works on both sides. Yes. Right? It can't just be that you have access to that and we don't. Because we use a really I would say state of the art, just any sort of plagiarism checker for any LLM tool, right? Because it can't just be copy paste, right? Sure, take inspiration, take some sort of direction from it, but it has to be your own
work.
words, right? It has to be your own version of it, right? So that is something that is an absolutely no-go. Students should really not do that. Now coming to the second part, which is on interview process, right? Look, our PI round is something that is very similar to what they would be expecting, almost preparing for, in their PDP sessions or whatever they do. The case interview round is a bit unique one, right? And I'll first explain why do we have that, and second that what is it that students can do to perform better in that, right? The first thing is that why do we have that? Look, even everything that we have kind of evaluated till then, which is that your academic background, work ex, your test scores and all, are still about the stuff that is on paper, right? Even your SOPs and all of that are still iterative, because you do come up with multiple iterations. One thing that we want to analyze is that when put on a spot, when given even a very basic problem, right? That these are two brands which are competing, or say that a product launch is happening, what are the metrics that you would track and all of that? How do you think? That thought process is something that matters to us a lot, right? Because we don't want people who have mugged all of their life, got great acads, because they won't be able to survive in the program that we have. It's quite rigorous, and if there is one particular, if I had to put a dot on what are we kind of evaluating, that would be just first principle problem solving, right? That are you even from very fundamentals able to reason out that hey, let's say if my market share is dropping, I need to look at revenue and cost differently, and if revenue, then of course I have to look at it from a channel perspective, say from geography perspective and all of that. So it is just basic reasoning, right? So that is something that we do. So case rounds is something that even even people who have high percentiles and high scores also struggle with. But just understand that what is it that we are trying to gauge you on, and it's more of discussion based, right? It's not something that you have to just lay down an answer for that. Hey, this is my recommendation, right? You have to initiate a conversation with the panelists. That is something what my advice would be to people.
Sure. All right. And do you also have waitlist, deferral policies? What do you do there?
Waitlist, yes, but at the same time, deferrals not yet. Okay. And I'll explain the logic behind that, right? It's in fact continuation to what I said earlier. As of right now, of course, in our early years, and at the same time, say 5 years from now, we may have that, right? It's still on the table, but why we don't have that right now? Because in our early years, look, our claim to fame has to be that we are able to generate disproportionate outcomes for people, right? That you got in a person who would in any other B school get an X outcome, but because they come to us, they're getting at least a 1.2, 1.3X, right? But this over time will kind of saturate, right? So which will mean that year on year, then our intake quality will not increase very much because of a high base effect, right? As of right now, it is, right? So we don't want a case where someone who we were able to take a bet on this time, for us to be, having, dual thoughts on them, next year, because our intake quality improves that much, right? So right now, deferrals are something that we don't do, but yeah, maybe 5 years down the line, we should be doing.
Okay, cool. Final question, Arshdeep, who should not apply?
Okay, great question, right? Let me, break this down on 3 parts. The first is that, don't come to us if you are just looking at it from an outcome perspective, let's say, right? That I have to go to a B school, I want to work out with a job. No, because there's a lot that happens here, and I can tell you it's very rigorous. It's tough to survive, right? And I'm absolutely open to also tell you that a couple of people do drop off from us, right? Even in our first batches they did, because it is rigorous, right? It's tough to survive. If your expectation is the same as it was in undergrad, let's say, that we won't have to work that much hard, and it'll just, and overall things will just happen, it won't. Because if even if I compare my FMS experience, let's say, I'll tell you the first 4 terms were very rigorous, right? The first 4 months, right? Because as soon as you get your summer placements, it becomes a bit chill, right? All of us.
You get used to it.
Yeah, and exactly, right? But for us, we want to, we make sure that at least the first 10 months of the 15 months, right? We keep on pushing our students, right? Because we have to do that, right? Because eventually, look, we don't have a magic wand. right? If we have to generate disproportionate outcomes for them, the inputs also have to be disproportionate, right? Just to share with you, we benchmark even our curriculum, learning hours and everything with ISB, right? Last I checked, ISB had, I think 912 or 962 learning hours. We have 1012 now, right? So just because we have to do that, we have to go that extra mile, and this is X of everything on career prep, right? So that is different. So come only if you want to sign up for that rigor. The second part is that if you want to go for a research role, I mean, maybe later on, right, which is just that if you want to do a PhD maybe, or if you want to get into government roles, let's say, right, later on once you graduate. I haven't met any B school graduate yet who wants to do that, but still if you want to do that, don't do that, because PGPs are not accepted, right, across. I think that would be the same with ISP also, right. And the third for me would be in terms of outcomes. If you're looking for a very, very, very core, finance outcome, right, which would be, let's say, in investment banking or treasury roles are the ones that I would put it in core finance, then we are perhaps not the best place yet, right? Maybe down the line we would be, but right now we are not, because our focus right now is just on digital first careers in growth, e-com, product, marketing, brand, and that is what we want to establish our name for in the early years, of course. But later on, yeah, sure, it's on the table still.
All right, good. This was great. Thank you so much, Ash, for taking your time, and of course, all the best for the upcoming cycle.
And thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So I had a lot of fun today, especially the sit down with the students. They seem to be enjoying their 35-hour work days filled with classes, career prep, networking and discussions and whatnot. And that is the rigor that you would expect out of a top-notch B school, right? And Altera, according to me, is heading into that direction. Especially their very strong focus on sales and marketing and digital-first careers. Of course, they are trying to be pioneers and have already built a good brand in terms of sales and marketing, product, e-commerce and those kind of roles. What remains to be seen is how they perform in the finance ecosystem with the likes of investment banking, private equity and more importantly consulting, which is a bread and butter for a lot of other B schools. The best part according to me today was the sit down with the founders and how focused they are essentially on the curriculum. They are teaching, they are making sure that they own the curriculum from the mentors and the industry professionals that are coming and teaching. Finally, like any good B school, they are focusing on their alum network as well. Alums are coming in, they are conducting sessions, they are doing bridge courses based on what they now learn and what they can learn in the industry. Overall, the school has great potential. Of course, as potential students, make sure that you talk to the admissions team and bite their head off with all the queries that you have. Because it is a very important discussion and it's a very important decision in your career. If you want to apply, reach out to them. So guys, this was my day at Altera. It was a lot of fun. For more such videos, subscribe to our channel. And in case you want us to come and do a session at your B school, please feel free to reach out.